Hello, y'all on YouTube. This is Rob with Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have an interesting Rob's Ramblings. I want to talk to you about when you get a knife and it does not deliver, and it is a bit of a failure or it's a bit of a disappointment. What do you do? How do you feel about that? You get a knife and you're like, oh, you have all this expectation. Maybe there's this hype that you build up for it, and you're just like, this knife is going to be the holy grail. It's going to be this. It's going to be just it's knife of all knives. It's the super knife, whatever, and you build it up. Or maybe you think it's going to do exactly what you want it to do, and it doesn't. It's a disappointment. You're let down, and you can't believe what happened, right? And so I just kind of wanted to chat about that and see what your thoughts are on that, and give you my ramblings, my thoughts on it, and where I'm at in my knife journey. We're all different places in our knife journey, and everybody's experience is unique, right? And so I respect that, but I love having conversations about it. I love to hear where people were, where people are, and where people are going. It makes it interesting. It helps me to see new things, new perspectives, because I'm constantly learning, and my journey has changed, and my perspective has changed talking to other folks and hearing other folks. And I like that. I like that because I probably won't be in the same place 5 years, 10 years from now as I am today, right? Just like you're probably not going to be in the same place you are here now, or you probably weren't in the same place you were 5 years ago, right? And what moved you to that new place in your journey? For me, it's when you buy a knife and it doesn't deliver, there's all these expectations. Is it because, for me at least, it was, I heard everybody say all these things about this particular knife, or they said about this particular tool, or they said, it's supposed to do this or that, and it really sounds like it's the end all in knives, and you're like, wow, that is amazing. That's the knife to get, right? It's like you even hear about all these custom knives, and you think, oh, getting one of those custom knives, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be the knife of knives. It's going to be like an Excalibur. You pull it out, and the Lady of the Lake's going to jump up and pull it out of your pool or your pond in your backyard and say, here is your Herman, and here's your Shergoroth, or here's your Koenig, or whatever other fancy custom knife you could possibly get out there, right? Are you looking for that Lady of the Lake handing you that golden Excalibur type of knife, or are you, and then when you got it, were you just like absolutely let down and disappointed? Did you see it as a complete failure? Did you see it as a complete letdown? I guess that's my question, because, where I'm at in my journey, I don't think that's my case, but, I think at times I have been, or especially initially collecting. I bought some knives that people said, you must collect these. And some of the knives that I don't like and don't care for, I know I'm going to shock some of you, and some of you are going to full-heartedly disagree with me, and you're going to not be able to see my perspective of all, and you're going to think I'm a complete moron and a complete idiot. I get that, and I respect it, right? But it's my journey, and it's where I'm at. Like, for instance, I am not a Rick Hinderer fan. I'm just not. The only one that I possibly would like to collect is the Maximus, and that's because I held it, and the action and how it felt is something I liked. But I don't like any of the other Hinderer knives, and I've held them, and I even owned one. I sold it, and I was glad to sell it to someone else who could enjoy it more, right? And I was able to buy other knives with that money. I've held a Strider. Temporarily had one, and then I went to different shows, and stores, and I've actually held them and flicked them, and they're not for me. I'm just not a Strider fan. It is just not one of those knives that I love. There's some other ones out there that I don't like, and I'm okay with that. And some people are like, well, you don't like phosphor bronze washers. No, I love my Spyderco Shaman. This is a great knife, but I can get the action tuned to where it's drop shutty, Chris Reeves knives. I had an Umnumzon. Beautiful knife. Loved the knife. Gorgeous. I mean, it looked great. It really did. The aesthetics, the craftsmanship was phenomenal. It was a knife to behold. And I got it because I was told that's the knife you should get, or at least that's what I heard. And that's what I thought I heard, right? I thought people were saying, oh, this is it. This is the Holy Grail. It's a Tanto. This is the Tanto of Tanto blades. This, if you can get this Umnumzon in a Tanto blade, oh, this is it. That's it. And I did. and I tried to carry it, but I didn't like the way those worked. I didn't like how the phosphor bronze washers worked on those. They just weren't for me. And I get it's supposed to be this glass, slow deploy kind of open knife. I get that. But that wasn't for me. And, when I finally realized that was okay for me to be like that, because I bought it and it didn't deliver. But I didn't want to say it didn't deliver because it's a grill knife. You're not supposed to say that, right? Oh my gosh, it's a grill knife. I can't say that. The Rick Hinder, I can't say that. I follow several people who love their Hinders, and I respect them greatly. And I've learned so much from them. And they've got great knife channels, and they've talked so highly about the Hinders. But I don't like the Hinder. Am I okay with that? I am. I tried the sheer Gorf, and one of them I tried, it didn't have the flipper that I think that would lend to what I enjoy. And so I know I didn't like that style of sheer Gorf. Now, I see some other ones that look really great. I just don't have the funds for those because they're out of my league at this point. I would have to sell half the stuff to get one of those. And am I okay doing that? I mean, maybe at some point, maybe. I don't know. At some point in my journey, maybe that's the case, but it is not now. So... again, that's one of those things. Am I willing to spend that much and then have that disappointment? When it comes to some of those knives, I really want to know. I'd love to get a Herman. I'd love to get a Koenig, but I don't want to get disappointed buying those knives. Now I know some of those knives you can buy, and then later on in life you can resell them and you can make money on them, and you can actually probably even make a profit or just at least reclaim what you've paid for them. So I get all of that, and that can happen. I understand that, and that's very reasonable, right? But I've bought some things. For instance, Quiet Carry. I love their designs. And I bought a Quiet Carry IQ. It's a little bitty knife. Had the best action I'd ever experienced in a knife, but it was so small I couldn't use it with my hands. I got medium to medium large hands. They're large width-wise because they're meaty fingers, but they're medium and length-wise because they're short fingers, right? So that Quiet Carry, I wanted to like it, but it was just so hard to use the flipper. It was so hard because it was so small. And I wish that it was bigger, so I sold it. And somebody else, I'm sure, is enjoying it, right? I had the Drift. The Drift was fantastic. It is like the perfect saltwater knife that's out there. I think I would have, I like the idea, but I never could get the action exactly where I wanted it. And like I can with my Spydercos. Spydercos tend to be able to do that much better, I think. At least for me, my experience, it is. So I ended up selling that one because I just felt like it's not a knife that I'm carrying. Well, then came out this 9, and everything I heard about it, and I saw people and different things and the perspectives they talked about it, and I thought, that sounds like it might be like, the Quiet Carry I might enjoy. So I was able to get a hold of one, and I got one here with a carbon fiber, which I don't think they're selling yet on their website, because I was able to talk to them and get this instead of the micarta, because I really didn't want the micarta. But this was it. This was one of those designs that they came out with that I love, and I really enjoy, and I really appreciate, and it works for me, and it didn't disappoint me. It's like it was built up as everything that it should be. But I watched the different things and things to look for, and I would listen to people who had gripes about things, and I want to make sure it was something legitimate. I was not disappointed, but I was disappointed with a couple of their other designs. They were great designs. They were fantastic, and people love them, and they still sell like crazy, and people still love them, and I would still recommend both of those designs to a ton of people. They were just not for me, right? So I was disappointed by that, and you have to ask yourself, is that okay to be disappointed by that? For instance, another one, the Nimble by EMP by EDC. I had a couple of Nimbles, loved them. I got the regular Nimble and the Nimble Tonto. Fantastic designs. Fidget factor is out of this world. I would give it a 9 on a scale of 10 on a fidget factor. It was just simply phenomenal, right? But when I got them and I tried to do the drop, because I got the meaty fingers, I would catch on the base of the tang where it was part of the flipper. It had the flipper right here, the little square part. It would catch on the base of the tang of my finger, and every time I would clear that, then the blade would come down and it would catch my nail or catch my knuckle, and I'd get cut. And it was just because it was too small for my hands. Though I loved everything about it, I really did. It really bothered me because I wanted to use it in the way I think it was intended to be used that would work better with a smaller or thinner hands. So I ended up selling those. and somebody else got a chance to enjoy it. But then I saw this relative, and I thought, oh, everything I read about it, and I looked, it looked like the tang and everything would drop and clear the hand, and I was able to get a hold of one of these. And unlike the Nimble and the Nimble Tonto, I was not disappointed. I have been extremely satisfied. Matter of fact, this one has been more satisfying than I expected it to be. I mean, way more. And it's now become one of my top favorite carry knives. I really, 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 really like it. So that is one of those things where I was disappointed a couple times, and if I turned my back on them completely, I would never have known. I suspect that's probably true for Shirogorov. I suspect it's probably true for Strider. I'm sure there's a Strider out there, maybe on washers, maybe I think Middle Complex talked about a Strider button lock. It looked amazing. The action looked amazing. It looked like it would be the Strider that I would love. But it's also a Strider that you're probably not going to find, because I don't think they've made a lot of production of them. And I think if they do, they would sell out so quickly because of what it is. But it would be probably a Strider I'd like, right? But I've been disappointed with all the other ones. Chris Reeves, yet really to find one that I really like, because they're very much into the washer and it's a very interesting design. I like it. It's a solid knife. It is. If you need a hard workhorse kind of knife, they're great. They really are. They are definitely part of that holy trinity. Chris Reeve knives, the Spartan knives, and Rick Hinder knives. I get it. But that's just the case there, right? You will get knives that you'll buy because you think everything is going to be perfect, but then you discover, lo and behold, you don't have the exact same shape hands. It doesn't fidget the same way as it does in the other ones. Maybe the action wasn't perfectly dialed in like it was for somebody else. Like here's my Spyderco. The action is just fantastic. I can get it to drop shut, right? Some people can't. Some people have to do a slow roll to close. I like this, and I can get that without any blade rocks, so that's really nice, You can do that. And I can also flip it open with a compression lock. And I have a CME. This is compression made easy. It's something you put on the compression lock. It's really meant for like left-handed access, so that you can close and open it with left-handed. I think that's what the OCD I think it's OCD for EDC. The guy who developed these, that's what he made it for. It was for lefties, so they could use the compression lock a little easier. But I like it. I like it a lot, and it made this knife a lot more enjoyable. Right, but there are a lot of washer-based knives like Spartan and some other ones that I just don't like because of that. TRM knives. I have a Atom. Love that knife. Fantastic with red fat carbon scales, and the one I have is dialed in beautifully. It's not as beautiful as my Spyderco Shaman, which is solid in there, right? Beautiful knife. Love this thing, but it is fantastic. Really, really neat knife. But it's one of those things that I'm sure if I tried some of the other ones, I might be disappointed. Maybe if I got a bad batch, I might be disappointed. I don't know. And tuning them was a little challenging, right? Because I think I had two TRM Atoms. I had one with the titanium scales and one with the fat carbon scales. And I was really into fat carbon at the time. And I didn't like to carry two knives of anything. So I sold the one with the titanium scales, recovered my money, was able to put it towards something else, and which is nice because it was unused and was able to get my money back, and somebody else was able to enjoy it. So that's nice, right? But I was disappointed with one, not with the other, right? So there are some knives, even sometimes you get of the same knife, you can be disappointed. I know everyone said you got to get an OTF, so I handled a Microtech, and I thought, I'm going to love that Microtech. And Microtech is going to be amazing. I didn't care for Microtech. I tried a Heretic. I didn't care for Heretic. I tried a Axial. I didn't care for the Axial. Then I tried a Guardian Tactical, the Recon 35. I have that in my box, my case. Love it. And then I heard about this one, and people were saying, "Oh, compares to a Recon 35." When I heard that, I was like, "Okay, I'm interested." They talked about the action. It was really smooth, really nice, and I was like, "Oh, very interesting. I might like that." So I was able to get a hold of it, and it's really a very reasonably priced OTF. I mean, for the size of the OTF, for the size of the blade, for the material that you get, this is a very reasonable knife. The cost value that you get on this is ridiculous. Now, Kershaw made this along with Hogue, and Hogue helped make these. And of course, Hogue is just
great value for the money. For USA made stuff, they just knocking it out of the park here in the United States right now. They're kind of like what Benchmade I think used to be. Benchmade's gotten really expensive, so I'm not really into looking at much Benchmade, but I started off my knife collecting with Benchmade. I love Benchmade. I had all Benchmade. I was like Benchmade only, and then I realized, wait, there's more knife makers? What? Right? And then I started getting disappointed with some of the Benchmades. And then I realized, Benchmades use phosphor bronze washers. And if you really want the action like you want it, you've got to do some tuning. You've got to do some polishing of the washers. So I have a bug out still. It's aluminum milled scales, but I tuned that puppy up just perfectly, and it's just fantastic. It's my favorite Benchmade that I have. It's the only Benchmade I have now. I had a Adamas, loved the Adamas, really cool, but I never carried it. I just did not carry it, and I don't know why. Just wouldn't carry it. And so again, it was one of those things, if I'm not going to carry it, I'm not going to use it, I'm going to sell it, let somebody else enjoy it, and recover those funds, because I don't like to have 5 million knives that I'll never carry, right? I want to have a select number of knives that I carry and use. The rest will go on to someone else who can enjoy them. Right? I had a Mordax by ProTech. Love that Mordax. Great knife. My neighbor desperately wanted it. I liked it, and I really wanted to keep it in my collection, but I heard Mordax was coming out with a MagnaCut version, and I was very excited about that, and so I sold it to them. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get that one as soon as it comes out, because it sounds like it's going to be readily available. I have been looking for that thing for a year and a half. It is my Bigfoot. It's my Sasquatch. It's my Yeti of knives. I hear about it. I see people with pictures of it, but no one can really confirm that it's still there. And every time someone goes, oh, I got one of these, I'm like, where? How? How'd you find it? What woods were you in? Was it late at night that you put a flashlight beam over there? And everyone has fuzzy pictures of where they got it from, because it's like you can't find it. So I've kind of given up on that. And this has become, it's another Fair and Forged design. It's a Mini Malice by We, and it's less expensive, right? But it's my, if you will, my, I don't know what you call it. It's my compensation. No, it's not. It's it's a knife that I've decided is going to be my button lock that I want it to have, and I'm going to give up on the Mordax because I just can't find it. It is next to impossible to get. They make a bunch of the other knives that I don't really care for, but the one that I really would like, they don't, and so it's too bad. I had a Malibu, and I like the Malibu texture, but it was just too small, and it dug into my hand and wasn't comfortable. And I'll tell you, if I can't enjoy the knife and it's not comfortable and it hurts after a while, I'm not going to carry it. I'm not going to enjoy it. And that's what happened with the Jurassic or Merkender. That's happened with the Chris Reeve Unumzon. It happened with the ProTech Malibu. And it's happened with several other knives that I've had that I've passed on. I had a Dan Carrier 9. It was a Dan Carey Integral. I forget what it's called. I think it was a 904 or something. I forget the name of it, but passed that one along as well because it just wasn't working for me, right? It was really nice, but the flipper wasn't working well. It didn't have the ergos to keep in my hand comfortably, and I liked it. I thought it was fantastic. It was phenomenal design. Loved his stuff. Still do. But it's just not a knife that I would carry. So I passed it on. So, that's kind of my thoughts on there. When a knife does not deliver and it's a bit of a failure, a bit of a disappointment, that's my thoughts, where I'm at and what I've gone through, and what I do with those knives too. Those knives get passed on. They either get returned or I get sold, right? What do you do? Do you have knives that have been a disappointment but you keep because you just felt like you should keep it because it's in your collection? Or do you sell it? Do you trade it? What do you do? What are your thoughts on your things? Do you have knives that have disappointed you, or were you okay with some of the things that it didn't do or it was short on? Feel free to leave your comments down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it and hear your thoughts. I'd also love to hear any ideas and thoughts for future Rob's Ramblings. I would love to hear that as well, because I have some of these thoughts for my ramblings based on my interactions and conversations with other folks, and I appreciate those. So I appreciate you guys, again, watching this video. If you watched this far, thank you. And if you watched this far, hey, you know what? Would you consider, if you found my content fun, interesting, and worthwhile, would you please consider liking this video? And if you've already liked this video, would you consider subscribing to my channel for more content? And if you've already subscribed, would you consider maybe hitting the notification button so that you can be notified of my future content coming up? And if you've done all of that, and I would ask you, maybe check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. That's robs_nerdy_knives. I sure would appreciate that. You guys have a great day and a great week. Bye.